What up, guys? Welcome to Cage High Connor. I am Connor. It's gonna be my video for the top 10 UFC fights of 2025. This is gonna be my final of 2025 video because it's already January 21st, so I'm fucking late on these. My bad for that. I feel like I'm way too late in the year to be doing this because we've been in 2026 for like a month, but whatever, who cares anyways? You can go check out my top 10 UFC events of 2025 video and then my top 10 UFC fighters of 2025 videos as well. Those are already up on my channel. We're going to be posting my UFC 324 preview video here momentarily. It'll probably already be up by the time you're watching this. So if you want to go click on that after this video, that'd be great. I'd appreciate it very much. All right, let's get into the top 10 fights then. Before we do that, though, real quick, guys, make sure to subscribe to the channel. Also, like this video. I very much appreciate it. All right, into the top 10 fights we go then, guys. First up, I want to do some honorable mentions. Some fights that didn't make my list, some fights that I really wanted to make my list. So I kind of write down my favorite fights throughout the year as they're happening just throughout the year. I have like a list on my phone and the fucking iPhone notes app thing. Anytime there's a fight and after the fight ends, then I'm just like, wow, that was a really good fight. It was a really memorable fight. I really enjoyed watching that fight. I'll write that one down. I had 20 fights at the end of this year that I wrote down. So out of those 20 fights, I kind of picked my 10 favorite and then made the top 10 list through this. A lot of fights that I thought for sure would be in my top 10 are not in my top 10. So I will name those here in the honorable mentions section. There's also some other ones that just weren't on here. There's some that like just didn't stay in my memory enough for me to write it down after the fight, or I guess I just didn't enjoy it enough for me to write it down after that fight happened. There was like that crazy brawl fight on the UFC 323 in the prelims where the guys just kept knocking each other down in the first round back and forth. That fight did not make my list. I couldn't even remember who the fighters were that participated in that fight. But I know a lot of people are shouting that fight out as one of the best fights of the year. Just not for me. But anyways, my honorable mentions. This one I'm shocked isn't in my top 10. Dustin Poirier versus Max Holloway 3, not in my top 10. Really good fight, but not quite good enough. I went back and rewatched it just to make sure, and yeah, not quite good enough. I think it's more of a really good performance by Max Holloway than it is a really incredible back and forth fight to make it into my top 10. But nonetheless, it was a good fight. It was a solid fight, but really just more of a good performance by Max Holloway there. And shout out to Dustin Poirier once again. If you saw my top 10 fighters videos and my top 10 UFC events videos, you know I keep shouting out Dustin Poirier. Fantastic career, one of my favorite fighters of all time. And sad to see him go, but good for him to get that retirement fight. Another fight that didn't make my top 10, Justin Gaethje versus Rafael Fiziev 2. Didn't make my top 10. Great fight. Just not good enough to make it in my top 10. Same thing with this next one, Esteban Ribery versus Elvis Brenner. Really, really, really good fight. There was actually a better fight on that card that did make my top 10. And unfortunately, Esteban Ribery did not make my top 10 on the year at all, even though he is probably one of my favorite prospects in the lightweight division right now. Just considering how awesome his fights are, the wars that he does put on. Of course, he did have the fight of the year against I think it was Ignacio Bahamunos at that UFC Sphere card in 2024. He had the fight of the year then. And then another fight that I thought for sure would make my top 10, but actually ended up not, is Milky Costa versus Julian Erosa. Awesome fight. Went back and watched it, but just not good enough to make my top 10. So without further ado, let's get into the top 10. At number 10, Nathaniel Wood versus Jose Delgado. This fight is fucking awesome. This happened at UFC 321 in Abu Dhabi, I believe. Back and forth brawl between these guys. Nathaniel Wood getting dropped in the first round, having a really put on a veteran performance, did Nathaniel Wood here, because it was a rough first round for him. He also got his own knockdown in the first round, to be fair. But really, it was a very dominant first round by Jose Delgado, and then Nathaniel Wood really had to turn it up here in the second and third round to get the win, utilizing his leg kicks, utilizing that jab, utilizing his crisp striking, and was able to get a win over Jose Delgado. I know a lot of people think that Jose Delgado actually won this fight, and I could certainly see an argument for that, but nonetheless, Nathaniel Wood walks away with the decision victory in a really hard-fought battle, and one of my favorite fights of the year for sure. Number 9, Diego Lopez versus John Silva. This was the main event at this year's UFC Noche card, UFC Noche 3, I believe. Awesome fight from the minute it starts. Very intense fight, very intense atmosphere going on here. You can just feel it even rewatching this fight. These guys really wanted to go at each other, and they definitely did. First round, very intense. Diego Lopez ends up getting out in the first round at some point, and really kind of able to dominate John Silva from there. Second round starts, and the second round's an absolute barn burner. Possibly one of the best rounds of the year is the second round between Diego Lopez and John Silva. And then Diego Lopez finishing this fight. John Silva got a little too overzealous in this fight, got a little too aggressive, started coming forward a bit too much, and walks right into a spinning elbow. And Diego Lopez ends up getting him out of there, gets the TKO win. Nice to see them shake hands afterwards. Diego Lopez, of course, now fighting Alexander Volkanovski for the second time, just about a week from now. So looking forward to that. Not that he deserves the title shot or anything, but I'm looking forward to seeing that rematch nonetheless. Diego Lopez versus Alexander Volkanovski also happened in 2025 and was a fantastic fight. Not good enough to make this list, but Diego Lopez versus Sean Silva certainly was good enough to make this list. My number 8, Yuri Prohaska versus Jamal Hill. One of two Yuri Prohaska fights on here. Yuri Prohaska, just the most exciting UFC fighter there is right now. It's probably between him and Justin Gaethje, honestly, and really he's kind of taken the crown of the king of violence from Justin Gaethje, in my opinion here, especially after these two fights in this year. Jamal Hill versus Yuri Prohaska, though, back and forth battle. Uh, I gave Yuri round 1, gave Jamal round 2, so it really came down to round 3, and Yuri Prohaska did Yuri Prohaska things and turned it up in round 3. Got Jamal Hill out of there with a nasty combo, finished him off with some ground and pound, and Yuri Prohaska was your victor, and we will be talking about him later in the list as well. My number 7, Henry Cejudo versus Peyton Talbot. This fight was excellent, way better than it had any right to be. I mean, on paper, I really wasn't expecting this to be as fantastic of a fight as it was. Peyton Talbot able to show off his improved wrestling ability in this fight. A lot of really fun grappling exchanges in this fight. There was at one point where Henry Cejudo got on top of him. Peyton Talbot had to scramble out of it. It's really interesting, this one, considering Peyton Talbot lost to Ronnie Barcelos earlier that year, earlier in 2025, that is, and really lost because of his grappling disadvantage to Ronnie Barcelos. And then he goes up against Olympic gold medalist Henry Cejudo. You would kind of expect the same thing to happen, but either Henry Cejudo has like severely deteriorated in his grappling ability, or Peyton Talbot has just gotten really good at wrestling and grappling throughout the year. It's probably a mixture of both those things, but nonetheless, fantastic fight they put on. Retirement fight for Henry Cejudo, who I'm actually gonna miss. His interviews are cringy as fuck, and he's pretty annoying, Henry Cejudo. But as a fighter, man, he's been nothing but pure entertainment. Really have enjoyed watching his fighting career, and you go back and you look at the Demetrius Johnson fights, his run at flyweight, the Wilson Reyes fights, the Henry Cejudo versus Joseph Benavidez. Go back and watch that fight if you've never seen it. That's one of my favorite fights ever. That fight is awesome. And then Henry Cejudo left us with another fantastic performance against Peyton Talbot, and we'll see where Peyton Talbot's able to go from here as well. Certainly big things ahead for him in 2026, entering into that top 10 in the UFC bantamweight division. So excited to see what they do for Peyton Talbot next as well. My number 6, Chris Duncan versus Mateusz Rebecki. This is the fight I was talking about that happened after the Elvis Brenner versus Esteban Ribovic fight. This fight was fucking awesome. A bloody war, back and forth brawl between these two. Chris Duncan, another one of those guys at lightweight that's coming in to kind of replace the Justin Gaethje's, kind of replace the Dustin Poirier's of the world, and these are the kind of guys that will keep lightweight on top and keep lightweight as the most exciting division in the sport. And Chris Duncan kind of just proves that here. Mateusz Rebecki, I mean, what a warrior this guy is. He just goes to fucking war every time he fights, has bloody battles, and yeah, this was definitely one of them. Somehow Mateusz Rebecki had a 3-month turnaround after this and fought on UFC 321 against Ludovic Klein, and he got his ass beat there as well. And that guy needs a long break, because we're putting Mateusz Rebecki through it way too much here. And a big win for Chris Duncan got him the fight against Terrence McKinney at UFC 323, which of course he won. in the second round, and should be big things ahead for him in 2026 as well. Rumored that he's fighting Jalen Turner next, which would be awesome. Sometime in March, I think, is the rumor for that one. So that would be another fantastic fight for Chris Duncan. Number five, Bilal Muhammad versus Jack Della Maddalena. Kind of the forgotten title fight of 2025. I think excuse me. I think it kind of gets forgotten about considering Jack Della Maddalena lost his belt in his next fight against Islam Makhachev, and then Bilal Muhammad also lost his next fight against Ian Gary. But this fight was awesome. 5 round battle between these two. Bilal Muhammad showing off his Canelo hands here throughout this entire fight. It seemed like he almost forgot to go for takedowns throughout this fight. It wasn't until like the end of the third round where Bilal Muhammad started utilizing his wrestling a little bit. But by then it was too late. It seemed like Jack Della Maddalena had his timing down, had his reach down, and just wasn't going to be denied that night, wasn't going to get taken down, and put together a perfect game plan to fight someone like Bilal Muhammad. Fortunately, he wasn't able to do the same against Islam Makhachev, but this fight was awesome. It was really anytime whoever was coming forward and landing big punches was winning the fight. I don't know, that sounds obvious to say, but it really was just anytime one guy walked forward, he was winning the exchanges there. And Jack Della Maddalena was the guy doing that throughout majority of the fight. And he ends up winning the fight, winning the belt, winning the title, and we'll see what Jack's able to do from here. I'll be very curious to see who they match him up with next. Bilal Muhammad, of course, already fought and already lost to Ian Gary, so it kind of seems like he's out of the running for being anywhere close to a title shot in the welterweight division next. And kind of seems like Bilal Muhammad's kind of on his way out here. I believe he's like 37 now, but nonetheless, fantastic fight between these two. My number four, Daniel Rodriguez versus Kevin Holland. Very much enjoyed this fight. What a shocker that this was the fight of the night at UFC 318. Considering we had Dustin Poirier and Max Holloway on that card, we also had another fantastic fight in Marvin Vettori versus Brendan Allen, which I want to shout out, which was on that card, on the prelims of that card, and that fight was fantastic as well. But Daniel Rodriguez and Kevin Holland definitely went to war in this fight. Kevin Holland getting dropped twice in the second round, which is pretty rare for Kevin Holland. Kevin Holland typically has a very good chin. You gotta wonder if it was just too many fights in a short time period for Kevin Holland here. But nonetheless, it was a back and forth fight between these two. Kevin Holland able to utilize his takedowns a little bit in this fight. Daniel Rodriguez at one point got mount on him, was raining down punches on Kevin Holland. And then the second round of this fight was absolutely wild. Like I said, Kevin Holland getting dropped twice in that round. Coming back, landing big bombs of his own on Daniel Rodriguez. No finish in this fight, which is shocking because at certain points throughout the fight, it looked like both guys could have been finished. Daniel Rodriguez walks away as the victor, getting himself into the top 15 at welterweight, and is apparently in jail somewhere in Mexico now. I don't know what the fuck's going on there. I don't even know if that's true or not, but that's the rumor going on, and that's why we haven't heard anything from Daniel Rodriguez since this fight happened. So hopefully he can get that all sorted out soon and get out of prison, if that's really what's going on there. My number three, Yuri Prohaska makes a comeback on the list. Yuri Prohaska versus Khalil Roundtree, which I think was the better fight between the Yuri Prohaska and Jamal Hill fight and this fight. This fight was awesome. Khalil Roundtree kind of winning both the first and second round, kind of just by having more technical striking and able to land the bigger and better punches. But Yuri Prohaska, once again, would not be denied. Comes back in the third round, does Yuri Prohaska things, gets Khalil Roundtree out of there, knocks him out clean in the third round with a left hook. Khalil Roundtree, you got to feel for the guy a little bit, coming off that war against Alex Pereira towards the end of 2024. This was his first fight of the year, and gets stopped by Yuri, setting up Yuri for big things in 2025, or no, excuse me, 2026. Rumored to be fighting Carlos Alberg now at some point for the vacant belt, I guess, at light heavyweight. Seems like Alex Pereira is going to move up to heavyweight, so I'll be very much looking forward to that. But Yuri Prohaska, the only fighter to make it twice on this list, with 2 different fights, and these were his only 2 fights of the year. Like I was saying, Yuri Prohaska, probably the most exciting fighter in the UFC right now. My number 2, Rob Dvalishvili versus Peter Yan 2. Awesome fight, awesome performance by Peter Yan in this. Had to put together the perfect game plan to beat Merab Dvalishvili, and he did that, and it was still a difficult fight. I think people are kind of forgetting that Merab won arguably two of the 5 rounds of this fight. You know, you can make a strong case for Merab winning rounds 1 and rounds 3. I think was the other one that I that you could potentially give Merab. I think live I gave 4 rounds to Birion, but then going back and watching it, I actually ended up giving 2 rounds to Merab. So very close fight, but really the story here was the dominant performance by Peter Yan. Being able to fend off the takedowns, being able to get up when he did get taken down, and then being able to put on pressure of his own, land big shots, and walk away as the victor. Very impressive considering how the first fight went between these two. And you got to feel for Merab a little bit here, going for his fourth title defense in the year. Is not an easy thing to do. Massive respect to the guy. And Peter Yan, of course, doing exactly what needed to be done. Becoming champion once again, and big things ahead for him in 2026. It sounds like they're going in the direction of just doing this rematch right away, which I am completely down for. But we'll see. We'll see what direction the UFC actually ends up going here. I gotta imagine if Sean O'Malley gets a big win against Sean Yan, they're gonna set up Sean O'Malley versus Peter Yan too. I mean, that'd be right there for the taking. So I don't see why you wouldn't, but we'll see. We'll see what they end up doing here. And then my number one, Joshua Vance, Brandon Royval, the obvious pick I feel like for the fight of the year of 2025. Set the record for the most significant strikes landed in a 3 round fight. I think it was most strikes landed just in general. This really was just like a back and forth fight with Brandon Royval just constantly throwing strikes. I mean, I went back and watched this, and it's just Brandon Royval is treating Joshua Van like a punching bag here, and it doesn't really seem like Joshua Van was bothered by any of the punches. And then why Joshua Van won the fight is he was just coming back with his own big significant strikes, and that's what won in the fight is the significant punches. Brandon Royval outlanded him by a fuck ton, but Joshua Van just wouldn't be denied. Took his time, was patient, and just waited for the big counter shots, and it worked out well for him. Ends up dropping Royval at the end of the 3rd round, which really solidified the fight for him, I think. I think it was pretty clear Joshua Van won round 2. I think it was pretty clear Brandon Royval won round 2. Joshua Van won round 1. So it really came down to the 3rd, and then Joshua Van getting the big knockdown at the end of the 3rd was really what solidified it. Becomes one of the greatest flyweight fights of all time, one of the best fights of all time, and my fight of the year, 2025. Congratulations, Joshua Van and Brandon Royval. Of course, Joshua Van got a title shot off this fight against Alejandro Pantoja, which they set up later that night. And of course, we all know what happened there. Joshua Van ends up beating Alejandro Pantoja due to injury, and we'll see if we get that rematch sometime 2026. I'm hoping for it. I think they're gonna set up Joshua Van versus Tatsuro Taira first, though, and then winner of that will fight Pantoja. So looking forward to that. Looking forward to the flyweight division 2026. And that will do it for the video, guys. Let me know what your fight of the year is for 2025. Let me know if there's any fights I forgot to throw on this list, any other honorable mentions I should have had in there. And I will catch you guys in the next video.